There are many negative stigmas and stereotypes attached to outdoorsmen and hunters. They are often depicted as uneducated backwoods yokels. However, this could not be farther from the truth. Many former presidents, statesmen, and captains of industry from all walks of life have been avid hunters. Theodore Roosevelt would often spend weeks out on hunting expeditions. Joe Rogan, a podcaster, announcer, and avid bow hunter, stated, "A true hunter only wants to bag a well-aged animal. It is near the end of its breeding life. It has already shared its genetics with multiple generations, and it is time for the animal to exit the gene pool. That is the animal a true hunter conservationist wants." This attitude has led to many hunters to begin developing good habits in terms of preservation as well as conservation. Safety of the herd is of the utmost priority, so the animals are around for generations to come. The Pittman-Robertson Act of 1937 placed a 10% excise tax on all firearms, munitions, camping, and fishing supplies. While this may seem infinitesimal, it has raised on average $350 million a year. In the last 3 fiscal years, it has raised $850 million. This makes outdoorsmen the single largest contributor to wildlife conservation. These funds are directly distributed to national and state parks for land preservation, herd management, and tracking. Wildlife conservation efforts have been both funded and implemented by hunters and have saved species such as the North American tom and the white-tailed deer from the brink of extinction. This has been achieved through land management, herd and animal tracking, and bans on specific species hunts. This has helped the aforementioned animals to not only survive, but to thrive in bountiful numbers. Hunting may seem like an archaic practice of a long-forgotten subculture, but it is in fact a necessary evil. Left unattended and unmanaged, herd numbers multiply beyond control, and disease can run rapid and destroy an entire herd. In a civilized and cultivated country, wild animals only continue to exist at all when preserved by sportsmen. The excellent people who protest against all hunting and consider sportsmen as enemies of wildlife are ignorant of the fact that in reality, the genuine sportsman is by all odds the most important factor in keeping the larger and more valuable wild creatures from total extermination. Theodore Roosevelt.
There's to, deer, even small game to large game, but it has increased in the last 5 years.
Awesome. How do you feel about people trophy hunting and trophy hunting in itself?
I just feel that trophy hunting is okay every now and then. A lot of times it's more important to do the management hunts. Sometimes it's not about that trophy. It's about conserving the wildlife. And if you see something that's not right or a sick animal, you gotta take it out of the herd. That's primarily what would come down to me. I'm more for the meat instead of for the trophy itself. A lot of hunters say, "Are you in it for the rack? Or are you in it for the meat?" And my point is, I'm always in it for the meat.
What do you think are some steps that hunters like yourself can do to help, conserve wildlife and keep wildlife safe and thriving?
I say just always follow the laws as far as hunting regulations go. Be updated with any type of updates that are there through the Parks and Wildlife Department from any state, wherever you hunt, either Texas or any other state. And I want to say maybe just follow the regulations. That's the main thing. Always follow regulations. Safe hunting. Enjoy it as a sport, but also think about the wildlife first. Don't be poaching. Don't be taking deer out of season. Don't be any of that stuff. Just conserving the population for the wildlife. Just increase numbers for future hunters in the future. That's
of course. And the last question I want to ask you is, how important is wildlife conservation to you personally?
Very important, because I know my kids love to hunt, and I know my dad, he wanted me to hunt. I love it. I know my son loves it. And if we don't protect wildlife right now, it's going to end. What numbers will decrease, dramatically in a matter of years. So our kids or our grandkids will never get to hunt if we don't conserve wildlife right now and practice proper hunting regulations. It's all in place for a reason, as far as They count numbers at the end of the year. They know they could reduce hunting, limits, or they could increase them if there's too much animals. Certain times of year, certain areas of the country or the county or the state, wherever you're at. But in order for our kids or our grandkids to hunt, we got to practice conservation to protect that for our future.